Hi everyone! In this video I will be discussing my transition from male to female. So I am a transgender transsexual person, meaning I was born in the wrong body. It is not a mental illness like some people may think. In my case, I was born a male, lived the first 22 years of my life as one, but then made the transition to become who I really was, a female. I came out and started seeing a therapist in late 2010, been on hormones since late 2011, lived full-time since 2012, and had sex reassignment surgery in early 2013. So it took about a year and a half from hormones to SRS. So as early as I remember, I always wanted to be a girl. I recall when I was under 10 years old, my mother was watching this movie on cross-dressing men, and I happened to see part of it and realized that's what I wanted to do. When I became a teenager and started to go through puberty, it was an absolutely awful experience. My body was changing in a way I didn't want it to, and I was terrified and hated myself. I knew then what I was and what I needed to do to be happy, but couldn't tell anyone. I was so reserved, not even my family really knew who I was. This is the moment that I've heard a lot of people think they're gay or lesbian, and when they come out and live that way, life may be a little better, but still isn't right. That is when they realize that it's something a lot more. For me, I never went through a period that I thought I was gay. I was attracted to females and still am, so I'm a lesbian. I hated myself so much. Whenever I would look in the mirror, I would see an ugly, disgusting slob. People would say I was a handsome young man, but I hated when they said that because I was not a man and I didn't see myself as handsome. Whenever I would take a photo of myself or look in the mirror, I would become so depressed and cry. I just didn't want to live because there was no life worth living if I couldn't love myself. I started doing plenty of research, watching tons of other people on YouTube that were also male to female, that were already living full time. I remember just how much I wanted to be full-time as well, but I couldn't express my feelings since I didn't know how. I was scared about how people would react when they knew, and thought I would be an ugly female that couldn't pass. I was terrified that people would look at me weird and see me as a guy dressing as a woman. I had facial hair that was very dark and visible even after I shaved. I was concerned about my masculine voice, facial features, as well as the Adam's apple. I just didn't see how I could see myself as a female. Luckily for me, everyone has been very supportive and accepting of me. This is not always the case for transgender people. It's a very sad thing when not even your own family can accept you. There is no excuse for that. Anyway, I started seeing a gender therapist shortly thereafter. Sometime later, I decided that I wasn't happy living as a male anymore and wanted to start living full-time, but wanted to be on hormones first. So in May 2011, I started taking testosterone blockers, and in September 2011, started taking estradiol. In December 2011, I started looking for clothing. It was very difficult at first since I felt as though it was awkward for people to see a male looking for female clothing, and I was terrified and embarrassed. But during that time, I looked androgynous. People couldn't tell if I was male or female. When January 2012 came around, I was living full time. My first day out in female clothing and makeup was terrifying. I didn't think I could pass, but I did, and so much has changed since then. I created a brand new identity for myself. changing my first, middle, and last name so I could leave that old identity behind. I legally changed it in April 2012, and later the sex on my license, health insurance, those sorts of things. It was funny, before I changed the health insurance, I went to my doctor, and the woman that schedules the future appointments looked at the paper that said M for the gender on it and asked, "Is this right?" I just laughed. I was like, because at the time I was still legally a male, so it had to stay. I changed it to female now, so I don't have to worry about that anymore. It was so exciting for me to finally start living the life I was always meant to have. Lastly, in March 2013, I had SRS, sex reassignment surgery, and removing the Adam's apple. If it wasn't for making this transition, I would have never been able to love myself, and I don't know where I would be. Because now I do love myself more and can express myself easier than I was able to before. I cannot imagine life now as a male. So that sums up my transition from male to female. I hope this video was informative and helpful. Thanks for watching.